night. Yeah.
Google search tips.
The most basic, and it sounds like everybody should know it, but not everybody does, is use double quotes. So if you have a phrase, if you want to match only Patrick Norton, you put it in double quotes. If you want to match Patrick Norton, but you don't want to match, I don't know, Ziff Davis, use the minus sign. So use minus to exclude terms. Little trivia fact, you don't have to use double quotes, you can also use dashes. So you can do Patrick dash Norton, and that'll do what we call a phrase match on Patrick Norton. You can also, we'll do some smart stuff. So if you do a search for like Opera Labs, Opera, the browser, also has a research lab. And if you misspell it and it just says OPER lab, we'll like spell correct it. We know about synonyms and stemming and all sorts of. But suppose you actually did mean Oper Labs instead of Opera Labs. If you had the plus instead of in front of a word, that will mean don't do anything special, don't show me synonyms, don't show me spelling. I really meant this really weird word. So use a plus if you want exactly that word.
Okay.
You can do all sorts. We basically have the philosophy of somebody should be able to type anything into the box, and we'll try to do something reasonable. So you can type in package tracking like FedEx and UPS. You can type in flight numbers. You can type in stuff like time in Zurich. There's a really nice calculator, and it can do natural logarithms. There's an Easter egg where you can say, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? And it'll say 42. And you can actually use that in the calculator, so you can add 1 or 2 to it.
Some of our users tipped me onto the conversions, which I now use constantly, because it's, turning bytes into terabytes.
And you can also do currency conversions. So you can say $5 in yen, and it'll say, oh, that's about 660 yen. And so it's all just sort of built into Google search box. One thing that people don't know is you can type define, colon. So if you type in a word like collegial or something like that, it turns out Firefox's spell checker doesn't work on collegial. I was like, collegial, that's a real word. So I'm going to Google and double checking it. You just type define colon collegial, and it's like, okay, yeah, here's the definition. And not everybody knows, but if you just type in like a multi-word phrase, in the top right corner of the browser, there will be a little, oh, do you want a definition, or do you want to click on a link, and it'll take you to a definition. So it's like your spell check and your dictionary just sort of built in. But another one is you can look for specific file types. So suppose if you're a younger viewer, you're in high school, you've got to do a PowerPoint presentation on the Civil War, and imagine you're lazy, right? You go to Google, you type in.
It's difficult.
But you don't want to do the work, or maybe you want to have a PowerPoint to start off with. You go to Google and you type in Civil War file type colon PPT, and that will return Civil War PowerPoint presentation.
Is that file type in one word?
File type all one word. Okay. Yep. So, and you can do file type doc, file type XLS.
That sounds much more efficient than like a name and then star.ppt. Or
yeah. Totally, it's really nice, and you can just say file type. It's kind of interesting. This is just a general tip, but rather than typing in how high is Mount Everest, try to think about not as a user, but as the person who's writing it as a webmaster. The webmaster is going to say Mount Everest is blank feet high. So you actually often get better results if you don't type it like a question, but rather Paris Hilton is blank feet high, or Mount Hood is blank feet high.
Inverse Jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly. Do the exact opposite of Jeopardy. Don't turn it into a question, turn it into a statement. And in fact, we have something called the fill in the blank feature. So you can go to Google and you can type in Mount Everest is star feet high. So you use an asterisk. And that fill in the blank feature will look for exactly one word to fill in that star. And so what you'll get in the snippets is we'll highlight, 29,000 however many feet, and we'll be like, okay, here's the exact answer. So you could say Abraham Lincoln was born in star, and we'll really pay attention and try to highlight in the snippets, okay, this is the exact year he was born. We also have something that almost nobody knows about, which is our num range search. And that basically says you can type in a number, ... and then another number. And that will require a match on each web page of between those two numbers. So imagine if you're doing research on Mount Everest, and you don't want to hear about how it's 29,000 feet high. You want to hear about the base camp, which is somewhere between 10 and 20,000 feet. You can type in Mount Everest base camp 10,000 ... 20,000, and that will require a match of that number, a number between 10 and 20,000. So now you hear about all the base camps, and you'll filter out all the stuff about the top of Mount Everest.
Interesting.
It also works with dollars. So you can say like DVD upconvert. Imagine you're a budget guy. You want to find a DVD player that can upconvert for $1 to $300. You just do $, 100 ... $300. And so this will look for DVD players in the $100 to $300 range.
It's a lot faster than clicking the different ranges in Frugal.
Yeah, you could go to Frugal, you could look at the ranges, but this lets you do a completely custom range, which is nice. And you can say, oh, I've got a lot of money now, $1,000 to $3,000. And it's pretty handy. You can find out a lot of ways to do num range searches.
Very cool.
Yeah. Another one is movies. Not everybody knows, but you can type in movies and a zip code, and it'll show you movies that are right around your zip code. So it's pretty handy that way. You can just click and you can see ratings and how many screens they're on and stuff like that.
Howling from Fandango?
Yeah.
Or Movie Phone?
Well, yeah, the nice thing is once you click, you end up on those kinds of sites.
Right.
So it's just like Google News. Nobody has any reason to really worry about Google News because to read the full article, you have to click and actually show up over on the newspaper sites. So we hopefully drive a lot of traffic to those kinds of sites. Some people don't realize that we've got this site colon, and site colon you usually use with a domain. So you might do site colon dl.tv and then type stuff in to find out video card mentions only on dl.tv.
Okay, I've got a question about that.
Yeah.
It seems to work better if you eliminate the www.
It does, because site colon, suppose you do site colon google.com versus site colon www.google.com. The more generic one, google.com, can match any subdomain, whereas site colon www.google.com pretty much says it has to be on www.google.com.
Got it. So if it's a redirect to http://google.whatever.whatever.
Or foo.google.com, that wouldn't show up. But here's a tip. In the same way that you can say site colon www or even site colon another subdomain, you can also say just site colon com or site colon gov or site colon edu. So imagine that you're looking for information about mortgages, but you only want to see what the U.S. government has to say about mortgages. You can type site colon gov mortgages.
Cool.
And then, hey, I'm only getting, we used to call it Uncle Sam search, but it's really just secretly it adds site colon gov. And you can do the same thing. You can say, I only want to see things from universities, and that's site colon edu.
Could you combine that if you only wanted to see files from the UK domains or Australian or Brazilian or whatever?
So site colon UK, and then anything will return only co.uk's or ac.uk's or there's different types. There's AC is academic, stuff like that. But you can use it with any top level domain. So AU, DE, any stuff like that. It's kind of helpful.
That's so cool.